So to understand my problem with the speed limits and police enforcing the speed limit and things like that, you have to understand my uh, vision of the role of government in general, but the police specifically. And I believe the proper role of the police and all government in general is the protection of life and property in a very simplistic definition. The job of the police is the protection of life and property. And so a lot of people begin to include what I think are a lot of extracurricular activities that the police are charged with undertaking, you know, in order to protect and serve the community. And I think it's a false notion. Um, Now, it's been proven that people can drive up and down the highway at 90 miles an hour and never hurt anybody. Is it safe? Probably not. Is it in their best interest? Probably not. But should the police step in? Is it legitimate um, for them to have laws against speed itself? Now, everybody says, well, somebody's speeding, you're putting other people in danger. But are you really? Are you really putting people in danger? Now you have, well, let's put it this way. If you run into the back of somebody going, whatever speed, but if you run into the back of somebody and you hurt them and you seriously damage them, do you think, or even you kill them, do you think they care or their loved ones care if you ran into the back of them because you were speeding, or if you ran into the back of them because you were eating a hamburger and not paying attention and going the speed limit? But of course it's not illegal to eat a hamburger. Technically it probably is, but most normal people wouldn't think, oh, eating a hamburger going down the highway is a crime. What if you ran into the back of somebody because you were listening to some music and you got so caught up in the music you weren't paying attention to what was in front of you? Or let's say you were on your, uh, wireless mouthpiece and you got to talking to your sister or something and you just got so involved in the conversation you weren't really paying attention to what was going on in front of you and you hit the person. Okay? If we take any of these normal activities that are widely considered acceptable to be engaged in while driving down the road, eating a hamburger, listening to the radio, talking to your sister on the wireless headset, and we suppose that an accident was caused by one of these factors, do you think the person who is the victim of the accident is any more upset? Is the damage any less or any more if you were doing it because of one of these seemingly benign factors than if it was done because you were speeding? There's no difference. The crime and the damage is the act itself, not what caused it. So if you cause damage to someone else's property, namely their vehicle, okay, you should be held liable regardless of whether it was for speeding, for talking on the phone, whatever it was. So, see, in my vision, people would be punished for uh, results and damages, not for specific behaviors. Now, that doesn't mean that you should be able to drive 90 miles an hour and run right up on the back of the bumper of somebody and swerve at the last second and miss them and not be liable for anything. There are people have a right to be free from unreasonable threats to their personal safety, which includes, you know, cars coming within close proximity of you at high rates of speed. But that is a crime of, reckless endangerment or something like that, which is a legitimate crime, of course. But as I said before, would they care if you came right next to them because you were on your cell phone or because you were speeding? No, it's the results of your actions that is actually a crime or a misdeed, not random actions that you may take that lead up to these things. There's also the issue of, and this is how we got started on this conversation, that the police are protecting us. They're saving our own lives. They're saving us maybe even from our own actions. We see them out in the midway and we slow down because we don't want to be stopped for a ticket. And so, because they have these laws in place and because they're enforcing these laws, they actually save our own lives. Well, if this were any type of a justification, imagine if this were applied to other aspects of our lives. People eat themselves to death. People eat fast food to the point where they become so obese that their heart is blocked and they die. But it would be ludicrous for us to think that the police should somehow monitor people's eating habits and restrain them or from consuming certain types of diets. You don't see the police at the McDonald's drive-thru window, yet there are people harming themselves, severely damaging themselves at the McDonald's drive-thru window. There are people that shop. Sorry, don't mean to step on your toes, but there are people that shop too much, and they spend money that should be going to feed their babies. But we don't see people monitoring people's shopping habits, and people gamble their money away. But gambling, is pretty heavily regulated. But you see my point. You cannot protect people from themselves without severely violating civil rights and personal liberties and personal freedoms that we hold so dear. If that was the case, you'd have a police at every McDonald's. You'd have people monitoring your credit card to make sure you're within budget and you're not overstretching yourself. You'd have all kinds of violations. So protecting somebody from themselves is not a legitimate uh, justification for undertaking any type of police activity. The reason that the police love these kinds of activities is because if you notice, all the extracurricular activities the police undertake are money makers. And all the basic core functions that the police should be undertaking are functions that cost. It costs a city or a state or a municipality money to solve a murder case. Because where's the payoff when you find the murderer? It's jail time, it's putting him up in jail, it's investigators, it's detectives, it's, crime scene investigators. It costs an agency money to undertake those things. But now you think about all the extracurricular things. Solving a murder, same thing. Solving a rape, uh, finding a kidnapped child. All these things are a cost. But the extracurriculars, speeding tickets, parking tickets, uh, all these different things that the police undertake that are so minor and I believe really lie outside the scope of their legitimate function. They're all money-making operations. And you have agencies now buying and selling uh, patrolling rights for the highways because it's a moneymaker. And so that's why you see people and departments taking on these extracurricular activities, not because they're legitimate functions of the police, but because there's money in it. And there's not money in the legitimate work of the police, but that's the way it should be. Unfortunately, it's not that way.